Hey, Mike with No Problems Gaming here. In today's video, I'll be walking you through another new huge Nintendo Switch eShop sale and 10 games to buy, so let's get into it. So the first game on today's list is Aether Origin. Now this is a prequel to the Aether series, and this takes place 700 years before the first game in the series. And this time you'll play as different playable characters as they go on a quest to climb a demon tower in attempts to save the world. And so the game is a fast-paced action RPG, and each playable character has their own unique playstyle. One is more of a melee type character, and another is more of a ranged character, and after you beat the game you're also able to unlock a third playable character as well. And so each unique character has their own unique story arc throughout the game, so you'll likely want to play through as each character to see how their story unravels. But the gameplay is a good mix between action RPG as well as some light puzzle elements, making it feel kind of similar to Legend of Zelda games from the past. You'll be able to level up your characters as you progress as well. There's a massive dungeon to explore, and you'll be able to revisit different floors throughout the dungeon as well, going back to find new secrets and hidden items. The game has challenging bosses, and its fast-paced action can get really addicting, so if you're looking for a classic RPG that's a lot of fun, I definitely recommend it. Alright, the next game on the list is Blue Fire, and this is a unique action platforming adventure meets Metroidvania style game, and you play as an odd creature that's kind of a blend of both darkness and light, and you go across the world trying to defeat this dark shadow that's been corrupting the world. And so as I mentioned, it's a 3D action platforming game meets action adventure Metroidvania. So think of a classic 3D Legend of Zelda game meets Metroidvania. And so your character will find different weapons throughout the world and challenging void puzzles that feature some intense action platforming. But many of these puzzles are optional. However, if you complete them, you'll get some unique power-ups for your character. And each one of these puzzles has a different ranking to them, and they can start off simple but still challenging and get even more intense as the game progresses. And so as you unlock new abilities, you'll be able to find hidden areas throughout the game through this interconnected world. And so you'll face off against challenging enemies, but also intense boss fights in this unique world. So if you're looking for a fun new 3D action platformer meets Metroidvania, I would definitely recommend checking this game out. Alright, the next game on today's list is Rune Factory 5. And so this is a unique blend of genres as well, which takes an action RPG and blends it with a farming simulator. And you play as a young hero that mysteriously appears outside of a local village, and you join up with their seed organization and play as a type of ranger, and you'll go on different quests throughout the game, building up your farm, but also dungeon crawling in this unique action RPG. And so not only will you unravel the story as you progress through the different quests, but there's also a side element where you can build relationships with characters throughout the village and eventually even marry them and start a family. And so there's a lot of options to enhance your character, unlocking new abilities, crafting unique weapons, and the goal of trying to grow the best crops throughout the game. So I think if you're looking for a new unique RPG that really blends those farming simulator elements with action, this could be a great one worth picking up. Alright, the next game on today's list is Trigger Witch. And so this is another unique blending of concepts that takes classic dungeon crawling adventure games like The Legend of Zelda and mixes it with a twin stick shooter. And so in this game you're playing as a young witch, and instead of wielding magical powers, you'll be using a variety of gun types to take on challenging enemies and exploring many dungeons throughout the game. So you'll have a bunch of different guns like your standard handgun, machine guns, shotguns, flamethrowers, and much more. And as you progress throughout the game, you'll be able to collect items that can power up your character as well as boost the abilities of your guns. And as I mentioned, it is that top-down dungeon crawling style, so it kind of feels like you're playing A Link to the Past from Super Nintendo meets twin stick shooter. And so there'll be some light puzzle elements throughout the dungeons, but also challenging bosses you'll face against in this semi-open world adventure game. The story isn't super robust, but I think the gameplay more than makes up for it. So if you're looking for a new twin stick shooter meets action adventure game, this one is worth checking out. Alright, the next game on today's list is Chris Tales. And so this is a unique turn-based RPG that focuses around a young girl that has time manipulation abilities. And so you'll team up with a ragtag bunch of heroes as they go on a quest to restore the world and stop an evil time empress and save the future. And so the game features a lot of cool mechanics where throughout much of the game you'll be able to see glimpses of the past, present, and future. And depending on what choices you make throughout quests and in the adventure, it can make a big impact impact on the future results of the world. So whether you choose to rescue certain villagers or restore parts of the town, you can see that impact the entire timeline, and it's a really cool concept. Another neat thing is that this time manipulation concept filters its way into the battle mechanics as well. And so throughout the battles, it will also break down the past, present, and future, and you'll acquire abilities where you can move enemies throughout the different periods of time. So you might take an enemy and put them in the future and then they get old and weak, or you might take them in the past and they become younger versions of themselves, or you might do the opposite effect where you move them to the future and now they become more powerful. So it's a fine balance you'll need to go between, and it unlocks unique ability sets as well, where you might have an item that you use that has a time delay. However, if you throw it into the future, it might activate right away. And so it's a really cool concept, and this time manipulation comes into the dungeon crawling elements as well. And so you'll find some unique time-based puzzles throughout the game, which is really cool. And so if you're looking for a unique concept of time manipulation meets JRPG, this one is definitely worth checking out. Alright, the next game on today's list is Steel Assault, and this is a side-scrolling action platforming game inspired by classic games like Castlevania and Bionic Commando. And so in this game, you play as a futuristic soldier in a post-apocalyptic world as he tries to take on an evil dictator and save the world from his oppressive army. And so similar to games from the past, it'll feature intense side-scrolling action. You have an electric whip that you'll use, and the game also features some turret-based elements to switch up the gameplay and add additional variety to the game. The game isn't super long. It'll probably only take you an hour or two to beat the first time, but there's several difficulty modes. So if you want to play a new adventure that's similar to some of the best classic action platformers, I definitely recommend it. Alright, the next game on today's list is Ocean's Heart. And so this is a classic-inspired dungeon crawler adventure game, very similar to Game Boy Advance Legend of Zelda games. And this time you play as Tilia, a young girl whose village is attacked and ransacked by pirates. And during this attack, one of her friends is kidnapped, and after this, her father goes out to try and rescue them, but never returns. And so this begins your quest where you go out to try and find out what happened to your father and unraveling this mystery on this great adventure. And so as I said, it's very similar to classic Legend of Zelda games where it's a top-down perspective. You'll go through a bunch of different dungeons and fight off enemies, finding new items to assist you along the way. And these dungeons feature light puzzle elements as well. It's maybe not as robust as a classic Legend of Zelda game, but if you're looking for another Zelda-like fix, and if you enjoy that action-adventure genre, this one could definitely be worth checking out as well. The next game on today's list is Unsold. And so this is a side-scrolling beat-em-up meets action RPG, and you play as a pair of young twins whose foster father has been kidnapped by a band of goblins living beneath the city. And so the game itself takes place in sort of a modern world, and in the distant past, humans used to be battling constantly against the goblin world, and you unravel that mystery and explore the underside of the city, trying to save your foster father. And so it's an intense action RPG that also features local co-op as well. And so each character can have their own unique play style depending on the equipment and items that you equip to them. So there's different items that can power up elemental abilities or boost your elemental resistance. There's some weapons that have faster attacks than others and different play styles. And so you can really equip and customize your characters and switch between them on the fly. Again, you can also play local co-op or single player through this unique action adventure RPG. So if you're looking for a fun RPG meets beat 'em up, this one could definitely be worth picking up. Alright, the next game is Unsold. And so this is another top-down action adventure game where you play as a prince who's lost most of his memories, only to find that his kingdom has been overrun by undead monsters. And so throughout the game, you'll slowly unravel the story of what happened and the mysterious downfall of his kingdom. And so again, this is a fast-paced, combat-focused action RPG. And so as you defeat enemies, you'll be able to absorb their souls, which can permanently power up your character and enhance your combo abilities. And so the game is really centered around the combat, which can be challenging to master, but it can definitely be incredibly satisfying when you do figure it out, and as you take on waves of enemies and challenging bosses. If you're looking for a new hack and slash adventure, I definitely recommend checking this one out. Alright, the final game on today's list is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge. And so if you haven't picked up this latest Turtles beat 'em up yet, I definitely recommend it. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles series were some of the best beat 'em ups I grew up on, and this is a true return to form. It not only brings back many of the classic elements from past Turtles games, but enhances them even further in this latest game. And so you'll go on a new adventure facing off against Shredder and his gang, facing off against classic enemies like Rocksteady and Bebop, Baxter, Stockman, and more. Not only that, you'll be able to play as the classic Turtles characters, but also additional characters as well, like Splinter and April O'Neil. And you'll find that each character has their own unique abilities and playstyle to them as well. On top of that, the game added in some RPG elements to the story mode, so you can power up your characters, unlock new abilities as you progress throughout the story. There's also a ton of hidden secrets throughout the game, additional unlockable characters, a story mode, a classic arcade mode, and much more. If you're looking for one of the best beat 'em ups in recent years, I definitely recommend checking out this game. But again, that wraps up our list of 10 new Nintendo Switch eShop sale games worth buying. Let us know in the comments below if you've picked up any of these titles in this sale. If there's other great games I missed, let me know in the comments below. If you like this video, be sure to smash that like button as it really helps out the channel. And if you like videos like this on video games, board games, and everything nerdy, check out one of our other videos here. And if you haven't done so yet, be sure to subscribe and turn on the bell notifications to get the latest updates of new nerd videos we put out, and to make sure you don't miss out on any future sales or any of the other great deals that are going on. But with that said, thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll talk to you more soon.